Hello, all. All architects love their BArch thesis, but they talk about it or they present it very less frequently. Today, we're talking about an important BArch thesis, and this thesis is dedicated to equity, diversity, and inclusivity. The title of this thesis is Reinterpretation of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar wrote India's constitution and is the symbol of social justice in India. This thesis is an attempt for such social justice through inclusivity. But it is better that the creator talks about it. So today we have Grishmika Nagubilli with us. How are you, Grishmika?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much. So I'll introduce Grishmika. Grishmika is a BArch student. She's just finished her BArch at the School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. She's a traveler and a very big designer. She's the designer for the magazine of NASA, which National Association for Students of Architecture in India. She's also designed a web interface and a website for a German-based company. She goes to exchange programs, and she's gone for very important exchange programs, and she also participates in local beauty contests and wins them. So welcome, Grishmika, and I would request you to tell us why you chose this topic first of all.
Firstly, educational institutions are of great importance in our country because everyone doesn't get the opportunity to access their right to education. Like even higher education institutions are of great importance, not only the private education. So in my third year, I had done something related to education, which is a school, a K to 12 school. Now I thought I'll take that further and create more interesting designs for universities with a vision, because in such buildings vision is very important, and how we design in accordance with that is important.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
and why I chose this in particular this particular site is because it is in a rural the site is in a rural area, and there people don't get the access to education, and also they don't have the opportunity to choose from different courses which are offered at postgraduate or doctoral levels. So the ratio of people getting educated is also very less for higher education institutions. The enrollment also reduces when we see the statistics. So that is how I chose this site, and I started my research about it.
Brilliant, brilliant. A very good choice and very good evolution of thought. How you started and what was the the previous experience you had with you're doing that school that you spoke about, and then you took it up and took a bigger challenge. So great. I mean, I would request you now, if you could start presenting so that we can immediately start and show
Yes.
the great work.
So firstly, I'll talk about my vision only, like I was explaining how it all started or what is the research based on. Sorry, I'm just putting it in single page mode so that it will be
No
easier
worries.
to. I hope it's visible now.
It's still loading. I can still see the document setup. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Now, why university?
Yeah. So, so I'll start with the synopsis of the university. So yeah, so my cover page explains it all. So this university has a vision of having the inclusion and how the campus planning can happen for inclusivity through equity, diversity, and community outreach. So this is a small collage I've tried to interpret my vision in. So yeah, so how you get the plethora of courses offered in a university when it's not just a college. And coming to my synopsis, yes. So universities are often merely treated as learning centers, but in this particular situation, I propose a quintessential university model that brings out the core values of equity, inclusivity, and community outreach as well. So not only the campus community, but the people living around in that area are also part of it.
Great.
And also how this project translates the university's vision in the planning process at different levels, like be it the spatial interpretation or creating interesting learning spaces or multi-purpose spaces and flexible arrangements. And secondly, how it blurs the boundaries between the campus community and also the general public through the outreach programs and facilities that is also explored. And all of this should also have the sustainability aspects, like as architects we also try aim for the LEED rating or griha rating for each building type. And also the how the project re-examines the architectural intervention for the inclusive campus planning is discussed. So firstly, the research question. So, like I was telling about how I interpreted the core values of inclusivity in the campus design architecturally is being explored in the research. So, the proposition statement also how we envisage the core values of community outreach, socio-cultural emancipation, because many a times it happens that well you can be educated. So that should not be a thing in the future universities or the design we do. So how we interpret that architecturally, and also how the economic empowerment can happen through the design of the university, where it we can promote diversity to make it more inclusive, and also uh, reflect on the cultural heritage of the region. So yeah, these are the phenomena, like the lack of access to higher educational opportunities and lack of inclusivity and community outreach, and also the declining enrollment ratios. So um, we don't have higher education institutions offering all these um, you know opportunities for pursuit of higher education in these rural areas, or areas which are distant from the city center. So all of these factors led to the research proposition. And then um, I've tried to identify my design objectives and research areas from this. So how design for social inclusion is about tapping the richness of the communities and use of local industry, and also developing services that are related to the social and cultural context. So through the design objectives, I've tried to understand the process of campus planning first to be able to interpret the vision. Then master planning is the important step in university design. So master plan, say you have academic zones, you have residential zones. So if it is a campus where people stay there as well, or it's only a sort of day school sort of campus. So also have to consider all these factors while doing your master plan. And also there's an important thing called walking radius. So your whole campus should be traversed in say 5 minutes or 7 minutes, be it a 30-acre site or 50-acre site or however it is. So that is why it is mostly done in phases as well. So, and the other research areas also include the architectural expression representing the rich cultural heritage. So what I observed is mostly the stone construction, and also the brick. Mostly the buildings around the site were RCC, because they were mid-rise or low-rise structures, and mostly they're residential, which I'll explain in the further slides. And also case examples and case studies are very important. So I'll give references of those also, so that people who would want to choose a university can get a reference as well. And
Absolutely.
then understand the ways to achieve interdisciplinary collaboration. So this is one of the things I've included for making inclusive, how people from different disciplines like art, science, and all of them can collaborate. And this sort of interdisciplinary collaborative approach makes it more inclusive and promotes interaction among the students. So also understanding the sustainable building materials and construction techniques. So these areas were explored in my research and thesis. So this was the vision: education for everyone. When it comes to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, generally how he preaches equality for everyone. So this is sort of socio-cultural emancipation and also the economic empowerment. So in my in the university I have taken up, these are the different courses: the College of Arts, Science, Engineering, and so the project brief also has a lot of sports facilities because sports are equally important. So, to briefly explain this, a university offering a plethora of postgraduate and doctoral options, the empowerment of economically and socially backward students to fulfill their aspirations to pursue further studies. So, hence, an inclusive academic community with more diversity leads to better social and learning outcomes, like I was discussing. So, this ultimately could produce skilled professionals, which could who could contribute to the economic progress. So, this was the vision as well, to make it a people's university. And yeah, why a university is because Indian campuses mostly were poorly planned or underutilized. They don't have the positive experiences of physical comfort. So I proposed a university which would try to eliminate all of these and create a more inclusive and sort of a collaborative space design with more interactive spaces. So equity has been an important concern in this case. And coming to the background, so I was talking about the Srikakulam district. It has a vast coastal wealth and heritage where the university was established. But according to the district survey report of that particular region, the district is backward and the infrastructure is also very poor when it comes to education. So it is the only university in the region. So hence, I try to interpret my vision in this particular university as it is the only university in the region. And so yeah, one of the important references I found was Campus Design by Akshat Kanvinde. So there he tried to explain how campus design happens and how it couldn't adapt to social change many a times. And so he also gives many case studies of campuses in India and outside India. So there I've tried to understand how university or campus planning happens, and then what is the purpose of a university, what are the different roles of a university. So this is how my research has all started. And then the process of campus design also has many components to it. So we need to understand each of it. Like I was speaking about the master plan, and a program is firstly the important component. And then so coming to campuses in India, we had campuses like the Nalanda, Punjab University, and all of these. So yeah, so and coming to my vision, so campus design for inclusivity. So how participation of the people could also help in promoting the sort of vision or translating it into the vision, into the architectural design. So this is a sort of community design could be used in such cases. Also, how the community outreach programs should be done, like what are the advantages of it, and how the ways faculty, staff, and also students could collaborate with the external groups, or maybe if they have some research thing happening, or how people could participate and exchange ideas. These are illustrations explaining that, like how the technical team and community, when they socialize, it gives a better outcome. And then the changing learning environments, like I was talking about the flexible learning spaces and multi-use spaces. So if we are trying to give more collaborative approach, like instead of giving a room for maybe a classroom, we could also use it as a group discussion space, or maybe some display, a studio display room. So according to the UGC guidelines, also we have some certain programs for each of the components. So we also need to consider those while designing. And yeah, library is one important aspect. So in these days we have libraries which are more digital. So and also the seating, just not tables and rows of chairs. So we could also experiment with the furniture, like which I've done. This part I've done in my design. I'll explain that. Summing up my learnings from research, so this is how these are the learnings. So flexible furniture for multi-use spaces, and creating spaces that are more dynamic, and to connect and collaborate with diverse individuals and increase productivity through this interdisciplinary collaboration and engage the community. So these are the things. And my case studies, I've taken three major case studies and two sort of case examples. So Ahmedabad is one which gives an insight how the use of light has been important in the sort of Indian architecture, and also how the openings and all of it, the heights, the scale of the spaces, everything was very important. And this is Prestige University. It's a proposed project by Sanjay Puri Architects. And then coming to the context, so I wanted to take a case study in a similar context so that it would be easier to understand the climatic context and also the sort of passive strategies and everything. So this is one more project. I am Ahmedabad. Sorry, I am Vishakhapatnam. So these three projects helped me understand the things better. So I'll just talk about the inferences now. Yeah. So yeah, like I was talking about the walking radius, zoning. So zoning happens at micro, macro, and meso levels, and also the circulation and landscape. So they we might need a public route connecting the academic and residential, or maybe a series of landscape codes in such cases. Because mine is also in a context where it's full of hills, and also the level difference within the site is about 15 meters. So I made a thing to understand how this happens. So, coming to the site area, like I've chosen similar areas of sites and also the built up how it was. If I was designing for phase one, how it is coming, and then like I was talking about the architectural context, RCC and mid rise. So mostly it was RCC. So I could also use brick and maybe concrete because steel is not required in such cases. And also the nature of open spaces and the ideal walking radius, like I was telling, it was 5 to 7 minutes. And the series of ports which could be created to increase light and ventilation, so which could also save the power. So in my case, I've created shaded ports which sort of increase the airflow, and due to that, the stack effect taking place and displacement ventilation, it could actually save 50% of the energy from one of my case studies. So I'll discuss that further. And yeah, so the residential components are almost equal in these cases, and the master plan also has to be designed accordingly. So the residential areas are kept closer to the academics so that mostly they take pedestrian routes. So when they could easily walk up to the academic zones. And the building orientation is of course most important. So all the classrooms, we should make sure they're in the same orientation or receiving a good amount of light. And yeah, so this is how to come up with these parameters like volumetric disposition, how more dispersed volumes help in taking advantage of the natural topography, because the ground coverage allowed in the site is about 40%. So this is really helpful. And there are significant architectural elements like arches, colonnades, and etc. courtyards. So in the library, which a library building, which is the large span structure in my case, so there I've used these arches to make it more structurally stable. So brick arches. So yeah, and built open relationship. So how the porosity and could increase the interaction between the built and open. So all these were the learnings from the case studies.
Great. Very nice comparison that you've made, and very good inferences that you've taken out of so many case studies. This is actually the best model for all students to follow for all the projects, because it's not something that it is out of the world, and it is something that is created out of a very nice precedent that is already available. So thank you, Smita. Go ahead.
So potential role of the university, when we come to it, how it propagates knowledge and practice. So when we involve the community, when somebody does a course in agriculture, say, we are now looking at more urban farms and everything. So if people are the people around who like we have farmlands all around the site, so people who already practice farming are also involved with the students sort of experiment, so they get the better idea of how it is actually done. So that is how they propagate knowledge and practice as well, and that gives them the exposure and the acquisition for the courses which are offered. So yeah, in this particular university, currently it offers 322 courses at undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral levels. So the different streams are arts, humanities, commerce, law, education, management, science, and engineering, apart from the vocational courses. So in each of these, it's important to understand, like for science, we need laboratories, biology lab, physics lab, etc. And in each of the laboratories, so I've made layouts of each of these also, like each one may require a dark room, one may require something else.
Right.
And comes to vocational education courses, so we may need some skill development areas, workshops.
Right.
So and the workshops in turn might need things like servicing, so all of that is really important.
Right.
Yeah, the user group, coming to the user group within the campus, so mostly the students use this. So
Okay.
students mostly access the academic hostels and sports facilities,
Right.
and administration and examination departments are mostly accessed by the faculty and admin staff,
Right.
and the researchers maybe the at the doctoral levels. So they access the academic facilities and the housing facilities and sports facilities. So for visitors also, we have provided guest rooms in the area program, so that people who actually come to visit the campus can also reside there for some time.
Right.
Yeah, and the visitors, yeah. So I've been a visitors learning and development learning center. So that is open to everyone. So not only the campus community, but people who are general visitors could also come in there.
Okay.
Yes. So design elements and the functions. So how levels, like learning at different taking into consideration different aspects is happening. So when it comes to understanding, mostly in the tutorial or lecture rooms or learning theaters and classrooms, we understand and learn, and by exposure through the digital library and also the outreach programs, by experience, so we have the auditoriums, open air theater. So my area program only, I've tried to sort of divide it into different categories of learning. So how we do it through observing, doing, interacting, and everything.
Right.
So interaction is an important component in my design. So how I used it in student lounges and public plazas or spillouts is
Right.
sort of interpreted here.
Understood.
So we are done with all the areas and figured out who are the users, what facilities they access, and everything.
Right.
Comes to the spatial relationship between like different spaces, how the user experience should be. Maybe so my first thoughts on this were like there should be a central public plaza which sort of branches out to the visitors learning center or the cafeteria or the open research lab. So at the center there's a more public space, and these are also the public areas. Then they go out to semi-public and then more private areas. So like the classrooms are somewhat more private, the lecture halls. And
Right.
then um, also how I plugged in the recreational spaces in between the learning areas is important in this case.
Okay.
So this is just a schematic diagram showing this campus planning.
Okay.
So these are the different sort of programs. So like the program components, the administration, the residential and staff and teaching spaces.
Right.
Yeah, so it's also important to understand the space standards of each of the classrooms or lecture classrooms. So these are actually available. So I won't explain more about this.
Okay.
So for workshops, there's one thing I would like to discuss. So workshops need a service area, and also between the workshops there should be an open area so that even if they could spill out to the open area and work as well. Like workshops, maybe generally it might be a carpentry workshop. They might need to hammer something, or they need
Yes.
some open space adjacent to
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the dormitories, libraries, and yeah. So doing this sort of space standard study gave an understanding of what each space requires and what should go with each of these.
Yes.
And so this is how the overall areas came out to be: students and the faculties and staff quarters and student hostels. Since it's a residential campus,
Yes.
more percentage of area came in this.
Okay.
So yeah, unlike the UGC prescribes different sort of components. So it gives tutorial rooms, laboratories, research laboratories for each of the departments. So
Yes.
I try to jot down all the departments of each of the branches. So for example, College of Arts, Laws and Education. So each of the department, they require these many classrooms or tutorial rooms or reading rooms or seminar halls.
Right.
So I was providing all of these in each of the clusters, but what I also did was the library or reading room is given at one space so that that would help in the collaboration.
Right.
And it's the computer center. So it is a part of the learning center where the public would come in, and the upper floors, the campus community would also go there. So it sort of creates that collaborative space within
Right.
the campus.
Understood.
Yeah, for and College of Engineering, it offers the undergraduate courses like the BTech in computer science, electronics, and mechanical engineering.
Understood.
So the campus caters to the needs of 11350 postgraduates and 27 research scholars, along with 77 faculty members. So accordingly, the hostel rooms have been designed, and also the housing facilities for the teaching, non-teaching staff have been given.
Okay.
Yeah, coming to site study parts. So yeah, so this is the site is located. It's in Srikakulam district in Andhra Pradesh. So this is the village Echarla within this Srikakulam district. And this is the site. So the site is located in the heart of the village. It's an educational hub, and it has important buildings around, like there's schools, colleges, but not universities. It's the only university, so it's sort of becomes the center of all the educational facilities.
Okay.
And then also abuts the National Highway 16, so it is one of the key features since it allows for transport.
Right.
And how the region has developed over time. Yeah, so this is the site. So firstly it was like full of hills and trees, and over time it just the lands were getting cleared, and then
That's a
the
8 year. That's an 8 year. Okay. That was 8 year, and now it's more than 8 years of evolution that you're showing.
yeah, so the hill here was broken, like initially there were like three hills here, and then the greens near the southeastern edge were cleared. So earlier it was like entirely green side, but now it's like um, fully like cleared from that. And this I found with great difficulty, the land use plan. So this was from some 1990s or something. After that, no proper plan was there, land use plan. So this particular site was proposed for public and semi-public use, and the reason why I chose to keep some facilities open to the public as well, like the research labs and also the learning center.
Right.
Yeah, and coming to the context analysis, so these were the institutions around the. So here there's a school, an engineering college adjacent to the site, and the ones in blue, these are the government buildings like the MRO office, RTO office, and police quarters. And
Okay.
there's a nursery also here, and some social infrastructure like there's a volleyball court opposite to the site, so that is open to everyone.
Okay.
So when you see in 3D, so this is the mid-rise educational institution, and all of the buildings around here are like low-rise mixed-use buildings, like educational and retail below, and residential above. Yeah,
Yes.
and this is the school here, and it also has mostly farmlands and everything surrounding this. And opposite side also it has residential units.
Okay.
And these are the open spaces around the site.
Okay.
Yeah, and currently this site is allocated for phase one, and in later phase, this would also be allocated for the university. So this would be some 150 acres, and currently this is 38 acres.
Okay.
So coming to the transport network, like we actually need to go at least 10 kilometers to reach the bus stop, sorry, the railway station.
Right.
Yeah. And the side section. So firstly, it was important to figure out where is the ridge and valley, because in a valley we cannot build as water logging will happen there. So I was keeping that in mind while designing.
Right.
And it has a slope difference of 15 meters along this section AA dash,
Right.
and BB dash it has about 4 to 5 meters slope difference.
Right.
Yeah, so the physical infrastructure existing on site is like this. So the water supply, the sewage and electricity lines, these are mostly coming near from the highway side. And the minimum setbacks had to be given as 3 meters and 8 meters. But sorry, 3 meters and 6 meters. But I had given 12 meters in the front and 8 meters at the rear, because I tried to take advantage of these 8 meter setback as a road itself. Like the vehicular circulation was happening along the periphery.
Right.
So that way I could make it more pedestrian friendly when I designed the campus at the center.
Right. So the road is only in the periphery. There's no vehicles inside.
No. I'll just explain how
Okay.
I tried to get a sort of pattern for the drop-offs of each of the things.
Understood.
So the bylaws, I've jotted down all of that. And then
What's the
in
FAR?
FAR is actually what happens is in this region, there are no particular bylaws. So according to the setback only, they consider like maximum 40% ground coverage and they build it. But when I looked into the earlier bylaws, so the maximum permissible is 1.68 to 2.36.
Right.
So um, so the maximum ground coverage is 40%. So I've achieved about 15% ground coverage.
Right.
Because I took advantage of the full height, which is like 15 to 16 meters. So G plus 3-story height.
Okay.
And coming to the climate analysis, so this sort of helped in understanding how the buildings can be oriented to take advantage of the natural winds coming in. So when we look at the windrows charts and also the sun path diagrams, and also the radiation analysis. So like which strategy is the best, like when we take the psychrometric chart. So all these are also important, like because sun shading is the most important strategy in this region. So I
Right.
mostly use shading only.
Absolutely. That's through climate consultant, right?
Yes, sir. This is through climate consultant. So here there's a source. I don't know if it's visible.
Yeah, yeah. It's very tiny, but it's there. Yes.
Yeah. So this is through Andrew Marsh. There's a website. So here also during the summer solstice and the winter solstice and different important days of the year, we have to take all of those, and then I've tried to analyze which parts are getting shaded in which season. So mostly it's getting shaded on the northwestern and northeastern side, so in different seasons. So yeah.
Okay.
There are different varieties of trees, but mostly mango trees were there on site. So along this frontage, there are mostly mango trees. So I retained most of them, like all of them, but maybe a 5 or 10 are not there. So I've replanted them also, because these will act as a buffer from the pollution, or the noise pollution from the highway. So that is why I chose to keep them on the site, and also it's sort of retaining the natural features of the site, and also the topography. I was designing with the levels existing on site.
Okay.
So these are the photographs of how the existing thing is. So this is the
Understood.
end. So there's a highway here, and below there's a service road again. So so we have like, I'll just show it in this way. Yeah. So this is the service road, and this is the existing highway, national highway, and again there's a service road on the other side. So it's like a 4 road thing.
Okay.
But the highway is at a higher level. So, and the service road is a bit lower level.
Okay.
So technology, I think I'll speak at last. I'll skip to my design only now.
Absolutely. That's a good idea.
I'll just present again. Um, yeah, could you see the screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'll start with the design concepts.
Great.
Yeah. So when I was trying to understand the site, it's important to make significant connections, like what are the existing pedestrian connections, what are the facilities existing on site. Like here there's a volleyball court which is existing in the context, so people from the campus, maybe if there was some non-teaching staff, they had some kids and they want to play in the and in this particular field. So it's important to give a pedestrian connection from here, and also the open connections. And since it is a sort of educational hub where it is surrounded by educational institutions, so it is important to reinforce the campus by providing connections from those educational institutions. So all these were kept in mind while designing, and also the retaining the trees on site and creating. So there was a temple here, so that was retained because this sort of acts like a magnet to allow more people into the site, because people come to worship here.
Right.
So that and the campus had no boundary walls, so that's one thing which makes it inclusive itself.
Okay.
Yeah, the campus beside this had boundary walls, like high boundary walls, nothing is visible.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is a sort of structure plan. So when we try to establish the greens connections, my initial zoning, how it came out was this sort of becomes a housing squad for the faculties, so that this entry could be completely given for the faculties, like if they have cars. Or and this is a hostel quad. Here the so both these residential zones will have a promenade in between, and will sort of form two spines here, which
Okay.
connect the academic zone. So here this becomes the campus foci. So
Right.
and the facilities were entirely spread out here.
Right.
The initial concepts, like the classrooms should be clustered. So the structural landscape was important, the courtyards and the pedestrian walkways, all of these are important. So
Right.
generally I did at the beginning was just give corridors along the classrooms. But when we generally think we people walking in front of the classrooms, we have that disturbance, and people feel like looking out of the windows. They lose the concentration. But if we sort of bring out the corridors away from here, that doesn't create the disturbance, and also sorts of gives more lighting to the classroom. So this is how the classroom clustering was happening.
Okay.
So I'll start with the design development stages.
Right.
So initially, what I was doing was, since the interdisciplinary collaboration and public use was a major thing, so I was giving all of that public things along the spine, so that it would go from the entrance to the end of the site till the temple.
Okay.
And then I was giving the residential facilities along this side and this side. But later, it translated to such a zoning where this was becoming the academic thing, and here the residential areas were coming, clusters were coming.
Okay.
And I was also trying to give staggering in these areas, but I realized that some of the spaces wouldn't be lit if I was doing this.
Okay.
So I changed this again, and this create this sort of pattern where there is a built mass and an open, built mass and an open. So all these were the sketches showing that. So then I tried to create a pedestrian spine here and here, so that that would merge at the academic block. So it would sort of create all connecting space to the academic.
Okay.
So all the entrance spaces of the academic and the all the hostels would connect through the spines.
Okay.
So this is the entire program distribution, like how the associate and assistants of housing was given here, because mostly they go out through pedestrian means, like they go out by walk to retail areas, or if the professors require something, they go out to get it.
Okay.
They're not, and the faculty housing was kept further inside because they are a little more private, and they might have cars and everything. So, and
Okay.
then the College of Arts is given here at the beginning of the academic zone, because the colleges around are mostly emphasizing on science, and College of Science we had and College of Engineering. But here this started as the arts college, so this was given at the beginning, and it has more number of courses.
Right.
And then followed by College of Science and Engineering, and then the workshops and auditorium and sports facilities.
Okay.
And these are the PG, UG hostels and the library.
Understood.
So this sort of gives a view of the circulation. So here the main entry was given, and so that a sort of pattern could be seen here. So a drop off is created on this side and on this side. So every so how the pedestrian movements on the y-axis go in sync with the drop-offs. Like the drop-offs happen along the x-axis, and then they sort of continue with the y-axis movement. So I was creating these two spines from the from hostel and housing zones. So when this gets someone gets dropped off, they sort of merge with the pedestrian movement that's happening.
Yes.
And so this is the pattern I tried to create.
Great.
Yeah. So I'll explain the
Walking radius.
areas within my site. Yeah. So the academic part could be transversed in 1 minute entirely, and the residential in 2 minutes, and the sports facilities and the entire campus in 5 minutes. And yeah, these are the pedestrian spines which connect to the campus foci.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the hub integrated with recreation. So I was talking about how I plugged in the recreational spaces in the academic zone. So here we can see a health loop. So there's a health center, which is a sort of facility for the residents there.
Right.
So this forms the health loop. And then here there's a students hub in between where both the spines merge. So here they have the lounges and the gymnasium. Then this entire sports thing becomes a sports loop with the multi-purpose indoor stadium here.
Right.
And here we can see that these are the academic clusters and these are the housing with open spaces in between. So all of these sports could be used by the people living there, like the hostels and the courtyards could have some play areas or some recreational areas.
Right.
Yeah, I'll start off with the design now. So this is the plan view of the entire design. So this is the
Wow.
site.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, from the northwest. So here the highest level is coming up. So this contour has risen up. From there, it start like there's 1 meter level difference at every level, and when it comes up over here, it's about 15 meters.
Okay.
Then this is the view of the sports facilities. So the swimming pool, the tennis courts, and the basketball court. Yeah, and coming to the context plan. So here, yeah, that pattern could be seen here now. So here, these two drop-offs like along the x-axis, and then the spine was shown earlier, like how it was connecting. And
Right.
then here I have placed the workshop. So I was talking about the servicing of the workshops. So this road is given here so that the servicing of the workshops and labs could be done.
Okay.
And the side plan. So this is the pedestrian spine, and here I've given the lecture halls, and with each of the lecture halls, it is of like larger capacity, like 80 members, 60 members.
Right.
So when we have smaller class, we need tutorial rooms. So those are of 30, 40 members or 20, 24 members. So each of the cluster has all of these, and then it goes to the next one, which is the College of Science.
Right.
But before that, here we have like adjacent to this, we have the laboratories, research labs, and the science labs.
Right.
And this cluster here is the HOD's housing, so they could directly here the admin part.
Right.
And then so here this block is at a higher level because the G ground level over here is the G+1 level in the site plan. So in the G+1 level, so we could see the entire thing now.
Right.
So this College of Engineering is at the highest level. So that's why the UG hostels are given here, so that the walking radius will remain 5 minutes only. The PG
Right.
hostels are given at a lower level because the PG classrooms are all here in the College of Science and College of Arts.
Right.
And this is the auditorium and the workshop. So this is a more public zone. So generally the academic entry is happening here and the drop off is given here. So a visitor can come in here and he could actually access the auditorium, and these are like workshops. The workshop are also open. And then here this block is entirely admin block, so we need admin facilities near the entrance. So this is why I've given it here.
Okay.
Since campus community will only access the the academic part from this side, these two spines. The more public zones are given in this area, and the admin part is given near the entrance. So here the people who are visiting the campus will generally enter from here. So this is sort of made to be the more public zone, and the campus community generally enters from these two spines. So here there's the collaborative space, or the where they interact. So here we can clearly see that the arrival points of each of the blocks is being connected. So here there's the arrival point. So all of these sort of become a node, and this sort of connects with the spine.
Okay.
Yes. So coming to the sections, so here we could see this along the AA dash and BB dash. So the at every level, the as the slope is increasing, 1 story height of the building is increasing. So this is
Okay.
how it's given faculty housing, and then the College of Arts, College of Science, and College of Engineering.
Okay. Understood.
So this is the schematic section where the lecture, I wanted to show how the clustering is done. So the lecture classrooms and tutorial classrooms, and
Right.
then each of it has an admin accompanying that, because I realized that each of these require separate admin areas, since College of Arts will require a separate admin and then Science will require. So each of the clusters also had the admin areas.
Okay.
So this is the main plaza where they centrally meet, like when they come from that spine from the hostels and the housing part. So this is the more collaborative space. So this is the
Okay.
spill out where they could also do the outdoor presentations.
Okay.
We see the view of the hierarchy of massing, so in accordance with the existing topography. So this is how it translates. So we could see every building from here.
Okay.
And then the in-between spaces are also important. Like there's a small courtyard sort of space here where the informal discussions could happen.
Okay. Interactive
Then,
space. Yeah.
yeah. So this is the bird eye view of the entire site.
Very nice.
This is from the other side. So this entire hostel block is connected. So they
Okay.
had pedestrian and staircase at. So this entire thing is connected.
Okay.
So these are the collaborative discussion steps. So while they can work on one side, on the other side they could just sit like in an OET, and they could also make informal presentations and have discussions among themselves.
Right.
And this is a view of that. So from the academic part also they could view that what is happening. Yeah, and coming to the layout, so each of the requirements of the different set of classrooms or laboratories were considered. So here we need a storage cabinets, and single seater would be better for tutorial classrooms, because when someone wants to get up, like when we had two seater or three seater, they don't need to always move out.
Right.
So all such little things, details are also important.
Yes.
Is and the research laboratory requires a writing area and also a lab area. So here this is taken, and this there's a step seating typology in the lecture classroom, so that people even in the last row could see, and the universal access could happen here, because when they can enter from the higher level. So there's about 1 meter level difference from the last to the first.
Okay.
So that 1 meter on the site topography is sort of covered up with this, because this entry is at a lower level and that entry is at 1 meter higher level.
Okay.
So I've done the interior also, like how it
Very
would
nice.
look.
Very
So
nice.
mostly I've used the condylite and quartzite stone. So these are the stone textures. So those are the locally available stones. And one of the case studies is Krushi Bhavan done by Studio Lotus. So they
Okay.
have tried to interpret how the expression through the stones. So I've also tried something similar. And here the recessed windows also provide storage cabinets below. So that is why I've given recessed windows.
Okay.
And auditorium also similarly, it steps up. And in this auditorium, I had this concept of retractable seating, which I'll discuss in the technology part.
Okay.
These are the various labs. So here they had a store, lab in charge office, and preparatory room. So, and in physics lab they had a dark room. So the requirements of each of the labs is different. So this is how it's done. And then this is in the computer lab. So the occupancy is about 60 students.
Right.
So for the University of Law, Arts and Commerce, which is the first row, like when we an academic block. So one of the classrooms is converted into this computer room, because they require extra computer rooms. So
Right.
that's why. So these are the workshops again. So they had the cabin and painting and finishing jobs, storage, and how the work desk should be placed, and the cutting area, polishing area of a carpentry workshop. So
Okay.
yeah, this is a view of the workshop. So I've given this sort of barrel roofs to allow more light. So more natural light would be coming in. And this here, this pergola, below this is the open space required for the workshops. So they
Absolutely.
could come here and work. And these are the changing rooms near the swimming pool. And then this is the kitchen layout. So in the kitchen also they have separate areas for chapatis or butchers and masala preparation, dishwash, etc.
Okay.
And yeah, this is the view of the swimming pool. And these are the changing rooms. So the layouts I've shown just now. So the learning center at the lower level, it is sort of a resource center where the visitors would be visiting and sort of audio and video resources.
Right.
And then in the first floor, G+1 floor, it is the computer room. Like here, I don't know if you could see this. The occupancy is written here, 150 around. And then the library here I've used, this is a large span thing. So here only I've used the brick arches. So I'll show it in the views.
Right.
So when you look at the schematic section, so here this is the resource center at the ground level. And then coming up, we have the computers and then the library admin. So these arches were supporting the structure here.
Okay.
Within the library also, I've given individual study areas and group study areas with the book stacks.
Okay.
So yeah, this concept of creating interesting dynamic spaces.
Right.
So here are the individual study areas. So the seating is sort of given in that way so that they have their privacy while doing their own things. And
Right.
these are the group study areas. So enough lighting is given, full height windows are given in this area.
Right.
Yeah, so here the library facade has full light windows. So for the displacement ventilation.
Okay.
Outside this, these vertical fins are given with terracotta jali screens.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and so here again, this library is interesting because the two hills here were there on the two sides. Like here and here, there are two hills. So the two hills were retained, and in between only I've designed the block. So
Okay.
on this two floor only it extends because it rests on the mount.
Yes. Yes. We saw that in the section. We saw that in the section.
Yes, sir.
It's a good
So-
idea. Very good idea.
Thank you, sir. And this is like the cafeteria and the HOD office. So HOD office again requires a PA room and the faculty resource center. So each of the admins in like College of Arts or Science, they have these HOD and faculty offices clustered in this way.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the view of this is the cafeteria, and this is the auditorium. So here I'll have a retractable roof. So whenever there's a requirement of like open sort of open area thing, the roof could actually open up and the natural light and ventilation could be taken advantage of.
Okay.
So in like while going up also near the spines, we have these um, informal discussion areas and meeting areas. So here we could see the brick and stone cladding is only for the admin offices. I've used
Can you
this
repeat the
also,
last line because I think
while
I lost you. Can you repeat the last line?
working.
When you're
Yeah,
talking
I
about
was telling
informal spaces, yes.
the informal spaces here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about the facade also. We could see I've used stone cladding mostly and brick
Okay.
in combination.
Okay.
So this office next is the admin layout. So there's an admin block which I've shown near the visitors entrance. So this is the block how it looks. And here also I've given a full glass window with a brick jali. So this allows for displacement ventilation here and also helps in the energy savings. So here this is called core and shell type of privacy while working. Entry and faculty cabins at each level, and also There's a placement office, admin office, and boardroom, and examination control office, admin office, and placement office. So these are the different office layouts for each of the thing.
Okay.
And so this is the view of the admin block. So this facade here. Yeah, so this is the view of the corridors between the academic clusters. So at every level, there's 1 meter level difference. So how it connects is here. So at every level, there's a level difference of about 1 meter. So this is how it happens, the connection happens. And then how the campus housing is integrated with student life is shown here. So there's the dining area here, the cafeteria here, with the hostels like at the ground level. And then there's the learning center, the fitness center, and the collaboration spaces. So
Okay.
this is the view of the entire hostel block. So the UG hostels are connected through these connecting bridges, and the PG hostels are connected through the staircase, this
Right.
last staircase. And yeah, coming to the hostel plan, so they're on the ground level. So this is more public area where there's a dining hall here, and the gymnasium and student lounges here, and this is the spill out space. So this is the interdisciplinary collaboration and spill out space.
Mm-hmm.
So these this entire thing is connected. So here level spaces are the public spaces. So the connecting bridges are also given along this edge,
Okay.
and 80 rooms on the 80 PG rooms on the ground level. So occupant capacity is also 80 because PG are single rooms and UG are double rooms,
Okay.
like 2 occupancy rooms. So the total hostel area is about 5,550.
Okay.
At the G plus 4, one floor level also, there are 80 PG rooms and 60 UG rooms. So 80 PG students and 120 UG students. So about 200 people on this G plus 1 floor, and again similarly on G plus 2.
Right.
So here you can see on the upper floors, so the common rooms are given here in this areas, and the common rooms are getting connected. So that wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
And here there are like open balconies or open green areas where this sort of function as breakout spaces for the students.
Right.
So when we see the section, so the dining area is here, and then the corridors coming in, and both the sides we have the UG rooms.
Right.
And then the staircase is from one of the case studies, again, St. Andrews Hostel,
Right.
done by Zero Energy Design Labs. So they have taken this entire staircase itself, like it's for a low cost building. How
Okay.
it is done, it's shown in detail there, but I'll just explain in brief here. So
Okay.
there's brick facade here, and the staircase is having the concrete columns, and then corridors, and then PG student rooms. So again,
Okay.
and when we see the next part, like here in AA dash only, there's again the PG rooms, and here again I've given recessed windows even in the corridors because that also allows for lighting, and this niche below and above we could use for storage.
Okay.
So and G plus 3 level also similarly 80 and 68 rooms. So that is also about again 200 something, 36 something
Right.
total students. So I've given initially I was giving only half the capacity, half the number of rooms here,
Right.
but later it was suggested that I give more number of hostel rooms so that more people could actually stay here,
Right.
because the university caters to the educational needs of like economically backward people primarily. So hence it was suggested that way.
Okay.
And so we see the color coded diagram here. So these are the UG hostels, PG hostels, and the guest rooms are also here, the lighter shade ones.
Okay.
So these are the guest rooms.
Right.
Then yeah, this is the vertical circulation. So this is the view of the hostel courtyard. So this entire courtyard could actually function as an interaction space.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the dining area, and this is the staircase connecting the blocks.
Very nice way of
And this is just between PG hostels.
yeah, very nice way of representing. Yeah.
So when we come to the individual layout, so each of the rooms has a balcony given, so that if they want to have like small opens, like sit out spaces, etc.
Okay.
So this is the guest layout. So this is the interior of the guest layout where they have the living and bedroom separated by a partition here. So
Right.
even taken the similar grid as the PG hostel rooms.
Right.
So again for the UG and PG, each of the rooms has a separate washroom,
Right.
so that it wouldn't create a problem every time for the students at that. So here also I've given recessed windows, like I was talking about the storage part. So
Right.
here we could see below the below the window the books etc. could be stored.
Right.
And this is the UG hostel unit plan. So with the 2 bed, and this is the single bed with study
Right.
tables.
Right.
And coming to the next part, which is the housing. So this is one view from the faculty housing.
Okay. Nice.
Similarly, unit plans were made for each of these things. Like firstly, the HOD unit plan. So this
Right.
is 1 square meters. So the important consideration in each of these clusters is that lighting and ventilation is properly received in each of the units.
Okay.
So that's what I did for housing, because majorly I was concentrating on the academic part.
Right.
And in the other clusters also, they're about 65 square meters, 90 square meters, and this is 105 square meters. So that is the difference in the areas, and these are the views.
Right.
Yeah. Similarly, we have bedroom, dining, and these are the sections through the housing part.
Okay.
So I've given stilted buildings because 3 meters is not considered in the height according to the bylaws. So
Oh.
and that would be used in as parking. So we don't need to provide separate parking lots again.
Understood.
Yes, sir. So this is more sections through the other housing clusters. So in the key plan, I think you would see what are the which are the clusters being through which the sections are being shown.
Right.
So here, this cluster, the section through that, and the second one is the associate cluster, and this is the section through that.
Okay.
And similarly, the HOD housing cluster, it's this section, and then these three are the assistant professors housing. So this
Okay.
is the one. Yeah, now I'll come to the technology part. So
Yes.
coming to the heritage and traditional crafts in this region. So here there's a handicraft known as Sannakadi, or the fine cotton fabric. And even in the heritage monuments, we could see a sort of linear pattern in the way the stones are being carved and everything. So
Right.
in all of so similarly in the brass work also. So
Right.
in this particular case example, they've taken this ikat pattern, and we could see how they've interpreted that on the facade.
Right.
So and the locally available stones are the condylite and quartzite, which are used in also used in this building. So that is why I've chosen this case study.
Right.
I think I've shown some of the views where I've interpreted this. Like,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So I'll just continue with this. So coming to the retractable seating, which I was also talking about. So all this seating could actually fold back, like I've shown in
Oh.
the retractable roof for the auditorium and the seating here. So
Okay.
each sheets would also be folded, and each when we actually fold everything, it comes into one row like this,
Oh,
so that the entire space could be saved.
okay.
And retractable roofs also, similarly, like I've shown in the auditorium case, the roof could be opened up entirely,
Right,
and like a foldable roof to say.
right,
So here also I've shown you the interdisciplinary collaboration steps, right?
right.
So the discussion steps. So this is the case example. So how they integrated the auditorium scales seating with the circulation, so that this entire thing was actually used as a lecture space by them.
Okay.
So yeah, I think this will help us understand the retractable roof better.
Yes.
This diagram. And yeah, like I was talking about the digital library. So the components of the digital library, like the systems were used there. So I've taken similar components in my library design, and like I've shown you some areas where I've covered this.
Okay.
And solar panels also could be used because enough amount of sunlight was received. And earth sheltering, like in the case of library, how it was resting on two mounts, so it sort of shelters the lower two floors, so
Right.
that is why we use that. And yeah, the displacement ventilation technique. So this is one section where we could see there's a supply air grill and a return air grill. So how the process of displacement ventilation could happen.
Right.
So one of the case examples is British school. So how they've reduced 50% of the energy through this technique.
Right.
And also case examples of what are the benefits of how it functions, and also the indoor air quality improves, and all of that has been studied
Right.
before taking using this strategy.
Absolutely.
So I've also given a series of quotes in my design. So for the microclimates, so how I've tried to integrate the building with the landscape, the design of rainwater harvesting. So in the places areas where there are valleys, so that particular region where we are not building anything, so that could be used for rainwater harvesting actually. So that is what I've thought. And here in this pocket one, there's a depth of about 12 meters or 15 see 12 meters, yeah. And again in pocket 2, 2 meters depth, and similarly in pocket 3 there's 5 meters depth. So all of this is utilized for rainwater harvesting, and the runoff coefficients and the rainfall amount could be calculated for each of the months.
Okay.
So this is one strategy. And yeah, exposed brickwork has been used in residential areas. And this is the case. This is the section from the case study I was talking about by the Zero Energy Design Labs. So this is the St. Andrews Hostel. And skylights also have been used in some areas for the ventilation, light and ventilation. So and for the multi-purpose hall, which is like the multi-purpose indoor sports stadium, so there I've used the steel structure because it's a large span and column-free sort of structure.
Okay.
Except that I haven't used anywhere else. Yeah. And for the multi-purpose stadium, also castellated beam, so that the servicing could be done. The pipes could run through these hollowed castles. So that is why I've used this sort of beam for this in the steel structure as well.
Okay.
Um, Coming to the full height windows, I've shown in the library part. So this is how the detail is. So the full height windows and the yeah, next part is the planter detail. So some in some areas I've shown how the courts or the green areas are next to the build. So this is the planter detail in those areas, and the condylite stone cladding detail as well. So
Okay.
thing is the daylight analysis for the classrooms. So this is a software called Diva. So here the annual underlit spaces, overlit spaces, and the um, was actually sort of analyzed through the Rhino software. So when we do the analysis, the spatial daylight autonomy, which is the SDA, and the annual sunlight exposure, which is the ASC, SDA and ASC shown here. So
Okay.
the space receives enough daylight as SDA, which is the spatial daylight autonomy is greater than 55%. It's like 77.2%.
Okay.
And then ASCs or like 20.9%. So it might be subjected to little bit overheating. So that could be reduced through passive strategies like maybe shading devices, or like I was talking about the sun shading of windows. So that could be used. And then this is for the tutorial rooms. And next for the lecture classroom, similarly, the ASC is less than 10%, so there's no overheating. But
Okay.
it's more like a seminar hall. The SDA is also less
Okay.
because it's more like a closed space. So
Understood.
this is analysis, yeah. And fire escape, so fire and life safety, like we've seen in NBC, it's very important. So the travel distance is taken into consideration, and fire escapes are designed accordingly for each of the blocks. So
Right.
this is highlighted in yellow color here.
Right.
And similarly on the upper floor, so these are the circles showing the radius.
Right.
I think it's visible.
Yes, they're
Yeah.
visible.
So yeah, coming to the concluding slide of the technology. So how the classroom clustering, and so this is the displacement ventilation schematic diagram. So here we could see the hot air is rising up, the cool air is entering through this jollies thing.
Right.
There's the full glass window happening.
Right.
Yeah. So and brick arches were used for larger spans, and the condylite and quartzite stone cladding. So all
Right.
these strategies in one slide I've shown again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that mostly ends that.
I mean, very, very, very comprehensive work that you have, done for this reinterpretation of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University. Great site sensitivity. The way you have done the site analysis, the way you have included made a very good contextual study of the site, how the external features have been integrated, how a good context for what is going to happen in the site, how it relates to the external environment, that has been very, very nicely analyzed. Your space function planning, what is required for each space, and the intensive detail is also extraordinary. Things like health loop innovation, that is also a very great innovative idea. And your circulation planning around the university, because basically in universities, circulation is the key, because actually people have to move frequently, and buildings are at great distances because of big campuses. So great work on the innovation part, and the circulation part. Your stress on contextual design, again I'm saying, is very, very, very extraordinary. And it really puts this thesis apart from the other thesis, because you've taken care of everything that is required for the context of this particular design problem. Apart from that,
Thank you.
yeah, the way you have created interactive spaces, between the hostel spaces, between the academic blocks, those are also very relevant, because those are needed in spaces, and usually not enough care is given. So great that you have taken so much care, and your basis of inclusivity in the initial part, and how that has been integrated into the design of your classrooms, design of all the spaces, is also worth mentioning. So great. I mean, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, uh,
Thank
it was great having you, and and for all the viewers, the walkthrough also will be available. And thank you so much, Grishmika, for sharing your thesis.
thank you, sir. Thanks
Thank
for the
you.
opportunity.
Would you like to say something to the viewers as a message?
Yeah, like I think the This talk would be useful for everyone who will take up an institutional building, because I've given some references of what I've actually looked at while designing. And also, yeah, one more website I suddenly remembered for the case studies is Sasaki. So their work is also really good when you come to campus planning and how you illustrate that.
So just to interrupt you, the link of Sasaki is in the description below. Go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it should serve as a reference for everyone who is doing institutional buildings or campuses. So I think that way my thesis would be helpful to everyone.
Great.
And also, yeah, how we design in accordance with the vision should come out in every design scheme. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for the message. And it's you're helping so many other students who might do a project like this as to how the process happens and how they should help themselves by making sure they integrate all the important elements. The process that you have shown, they should follow that process. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.